Hello everybody, how's it going? We have a new job today. We're gonna be working on the Jeep. Big surprise, right? We're gonna do something that I've been putting off for a long time. My Jeep has a four-wheel disc kit. Not a kit really, I made it myself. A lot of people ask a lot of questions about it. It's got CJ5 disc brakes up front from a Dana 30. And then it has later model CJ7 discs and calipers, also from a Dana 30, but it's the later model. The caliper is a little bit different from the 80s with homemade brackets in the back. So stock master cylinder, they work great, but in a brake test I did a while ago, the rear, just with the weight transfer, do lock up first. So I'm going to show you that clip. 35 miles an hour, stand on the brakes, here's what happens. So I want to try to remedy that. It stops fine, but there's pretty cheap, easy mod to make it a little bit safer and work a little better. So we are going to be installing a proportioning valve. This one's made by Willwood. They make really good stuff. I actually got this really cheap. It's old, but it was still new in the packaging. Someone had opened it and never used it. I got it on eBay for less than 20 bucks. It was missing the fittings, so I had to pick those up. They're just 1/8 pipe thread to a 3/16 flare fitting. I got 4 of them on eBay. I think this was like $5.99 or something. So here's the valve. There's the part number 2602220. Like I said, you can tell it's pretty old, so I have no idea if they still make these or not. But for like 17 bucks shipped, I couldn't complain. So we're gonna need a tubing cutter, Teflon tape, flaring tool, and we're just gonna be flaring 2 pieces of 3/16 line. And I have some old ends here. We're gonna reuse these. Another trick I like to do is whenever you're doing a brake job, if you have good hunks of line left over, put a fitting on them and smash them shut so that you can plug your lines when you're working on them, so that you don't have brake fluid dripping down your neck while you're working. I think this shouldn't be too messy because we're going to be, I'll show you in a second, we're going to be opening up the brake system pretty high above the master cylinder and everything else, so I don't think we're going to have a lot of dripping, which will also make it nicer when I go to bleed the brakes. We shouldn't have a lot of air in the system as well. In a normal vehicle, you would put this up in the firewall, probably near the master cylinder, but since these silly Jeeps have the master cylinder up here, right next to the steering box, there's really no good open area to do it. So I'm going to, I think I found this area is going to be the best spot. We're going to tap into that line right there. What this does is it'll reduce the pressure going to the rear brakes and prevent them from having as much force early on as the front. This can limit line pressure by 57%, so, and it's adjustable. Not the ideal location, but this is one of those things, once you get it set, you're really not going to be messing with it a whole lot. So I might have to crawl under it a few times to adjust it, and then after that I'll probably hopefully never see it again. So we're gonna mount it right there, tap into these lines, flare the fittings, and put it in there. You saw me struggling there with the getting the fitting broke loose. That's been on there for like 3 years, and it's so much easier to work on these things when the bodies aren't on. I hate working underneath like that. So got it freed up. I cut this off. That's the line that goes into the flex line. So that's going to be our little pigtail off of the proportioning valve. So a couple things you want to do here. We're going to flare. You can use compression fittings or however you want to do it. Make sure you put your fitting on. I've done that. I've flared it and then realized I forgot to put it on. So make sure you put that on. Then I like to put some grease right on the tip of that. And we'll also put some on the flaring tool, because that's where I always have trouble. It like golds or tears. But I don't want it on the outside of that. because then it kind of slips in the clamp. Find a 3/16 line, and we're gonna get this set up and ready to go. Okay, so we got our flaring tool. We're in the 3/16 spot. I made sure there was no grease or anything on the actual piece of tubing, but we got the end packed with grease, and we will flush that out when we're done. I also have grease on the end of the flaring tool. So we'll just cross our fingers and hope this goes well. We'll give it a shot. The grease seems to help it flare without pushing the piece out of the fixture. We got the end flared and we're ready to move on to the other part. It turned out pretty good. We'll know for sure when we check for leaks. All of us flat fender owners are so lucky that we have our master cylinder in such a convenient area. So we got the valve in. We're gonna start pushing the air out of the system. So we're gonna make sure we got lots of fluid in our master cylinder. So I just use a 3/4 inch box end or open end wrench. Some people say this is a pain. I mean, it could be more convenient, but I haven't really had much trouble getting mine on and off and getting in there. If your brake system's in good shape, you really aren't gonna have to mess with this very much at all. So mine's full, so I'm gonna leave that lid off and just keep an eye on it as we bleed the system. So I have the valve in. It's not mounted or anything, it's just threaded in. I'm going to put some vacuum on here and pull some fluid, because I'm sure there's some sort of valve in here with there's air in there. So because if I hooked it all up right now, I'd be pushing air through the entire system. If you don't have one of these, I would highly recommend getting one. It makes life so much easier. So just putting a little vacuum on there, we'll pull some fluid through, and then we'll seal up the system and pull fluid all the way from each caliper. Got my shop helper out here today. What do you have to say?
I don't know. Hello. Not really doing much, but I guess I'm in the garage with Dad, so that's
what are you gonna do? There's your Jeep, huh?
Yep.
Now I'm just going to bleed the rear calipers. Hoping we don't get too much air, but we're gonna do the same deal with the vacuum, the mighty vac, and see what we can get. Yeah, we got some, I don't know what that was. It looks like a bee.
Wait, where?
There's something gross stuck in my bleeder. We're getting some fluid and some air. Alright, so we're still bleeding. I have one small leak on one of my flares that I made. Imagine that. And I think we got it now. Our drips are gone. We're just pulling a little bit more through the rear. And then I think we're going to go up front and bleed the front too, just in case. I haven't done that in a long time. So we'll pull a little more fluid through the front, and then we should be done. Oh yeah, I'm not seeing any bubbles there. That's how it should look in the back too, so look at that. Nothing but fluid. So I think the front's pretty good. Got a pretty firm pedal, so I think I'm gonna do the rear one more time. I don't like any air in my brakes. I like a really firm pedal. So full pressure in, reduced pressure out. The setting in between will yield proportionally adjusted line pressure. Okay. There's where we ended up mounting it. I know it's gonna get dirty, as you can see grease from the drive shaft, but like I said, was the best spot I could find, and I'm not gonna be messing with it much. So I'm gonna put it right in the middle and do some testing and tuning and see how that goes. So we got rid of all the drips. This flare was leaking. We got that fixed, the brakes are bled, and we're ready to go. I scared you? We are done. We got everything together. got all the air out of the system. Jeep's warming up. We're going to take it out on a test drive and tune that valve and see how we get the braking balanced out. So that's it for this video because I don't want it to be too long. Tune in for the next one. So thanks for watching. Hope you liked it. Ask me questions, give me feedback. I appreciate you watching, and we'll see you next time.